Fuck you, Blizzard. Fuck you. Alright, so I'm doing something a little bit different here for the first time on my channel. I'm going to be discussing gaming politics. I prefer to stay out of that because I'm just not much into politics. I think that's kind of obvious at this point. But Blizzard just did something recently that you do not fucking go. Okay? For those who don't know the story, Blizzard earlier this month, after a Chinese gamer from Hong Kong, I don't remember what his name is, I'll put it onto the screen as I'm editing it. So the guy won a Hearthstone tournament against a South Korean gamer, and he was interviewed in a podcast by Taiwanese representatives from of Blizzard, I'm pretty sure. And in this podcast, he decided, rather than gloat about his victory and talk about how joyed he was, he took this opportunity to, while wearing a specific kind of protesting mask and glasses or goggles, decided to take this opportunity to talk about all the protests going on, especially in Hong Kong, and wanted to take this time to try and rally as many people on board from other countries to hopefully make changes for the better there. And you'll never guess what Blizzard decided to do after that. They essentially got rid of they took down the podcast, they fired the representatives who interviewed him, and they essentially not only banned him from ever partaking in any Hearthstone tournaments for like a year or two, but they didn't even give him his goddamn prize money. Yep. You want to know what this is like? This would be like if back in 2015, or technically in 2016, during the Oscars, when Leonardo DiCaprio finally won his long-deserved Oscar from after his role with The Revenant. That'd be like if he won that, got up, did his speech about the whole global warming thing and how we need to act towards it, which, good on him if you ask me. This would be like if after that, it turns out the Oscars got a lot of their funding and sponsorships from big oil companies that would be threatened by this, instead decide to, shortly after, take away his Oscar, and decide to ban him from ever even being nominated for an Oscar for the rest of his life, and so on. That's kind of what that feels like. Only this, in my opinion, is far worse. And you want to know why? Now, don't get me wrong, I think global warming is a big issue, and it's something that needs to be dealt with. But this is not only and, you know, I'm someone who hates microtransactions too. At least when they're implemented in games we already paid a lot of money for, like CTR Nitro Fuel being a recent example of that. I hated that Activision decided to implement the microtransaction things weeks after the game launched, and it got all these positive reviews and whatnot. But to me, that at least feels more like just a kind of like kind of screw you. This, on the other hand, is a big league of screw you to human rights. That's what it is. 'Cause this just feels like they essentially, and I know what people are going to say to me. I know they're going to say, well, King, you got to think about the business side of it. And don't get me wrong, I understand. Sometimes you do have to think about that. That's why companies in the animation industry like DreamWorks keep putting out shit like The Boss Baby, because movies like that, for some reason, pull in a lot of big money with the kiddies. Don't ask me how or why, it just does. But yeah, in that sense, I get it. You gotta think about the money sometimes in order to keep afloat. But this is just taking it one step too far. Like, you are not only denying this man what he earned, what he rightfully earned, but you are basically saying you don't give a shit about human rights in other countries. You don't give a shit about that. I know I'm sounding very angry about this, but this really does legitimately piss me off that we are totally, or at least that the people running these companies are totally okay with this shit. And they shouldn't be. I know that at this point, I should be numb to crap like this, but sometimes something so bad happens that it kind of shocks you out of your stupor. And in this instance, this, in my opinion, is one of the most despicable things I've ever seen a company do. And I've heard about a lot of them, trust me. I'm definitely very well aware of the kind of shit that companies like EA do to their employees. And if you want, and I'm not going to dwell too much on that, but definitely look it up, because it's kind of sad, really, what EA has done to its companies as of late. I'm not even going to dwell on the companies that they canceled, all because because of the ownership, they eventually just dwindled and couldn't pull out good products, but whatever. Point is, that is incredibly shitty. If any Chinese people out there may or may not be watching this, all I gotta say is, you have my sympathies. You have my sympathies. And all I can say is, I really do hope that things get better for you. And Blizzard, if you're watching this, you better goddamn do something soon to pull yourselves out of the mud. Because as of now, like with thousands, maybe millions of other people at this point, I'm boycotting your shit. I'm not buying or playing any more of your shit until you fix what you've essentially broken. And until then, I'm King Gargantuous, and all I have to say is, much like with the title of this video, fuck you, Blizzard.